up? Sorry for the couple minutes spillover. We good? Mike on. Dad, I don't know what happened. I opened up my spreadsheet. There's a couple of games that were really jacked up, so I'm gonna have to sweep through it. Sometimes people accidentally F up my coding, and I gotta go back and check the mod logs and see what happened. But I think I fixed it all. But kind of like a 6-minute crunch there. So, what's up, guys? Gun here. Happy Tuesday. 15 games of baseball on the docket tonight. It is trade week. There are a lot of names on the hot stove, and every one of those names somehow, outside of a couple of pitchers like Max Scherzer, are associated with this slate, and we might even see pitchers on this slate end up getting scratched in lieu of a looming trade. So it's going to be one of those fun slates. It's a massive every game in the league play slate. We just got a little bit of Brewers COVID breakout news. I saw Jace Peterson and Christian Yelich implicated in that. So we'll try and get to the bottom of that. And then, of course, I also saw that Tyler Anderson is somebody that they want to get a trade for, who's scheduled to pitch today. They want to get him traded before his start today. So look out for him to be scratched. So it could get weird. It could get weird, mama. This is my YouTube channel. If you're stumbling across this video on YouTube and you're not subscribed, you like DFS, whether it be baseball, basketball, or NFL, we're going to have content for everything, mostly in the form of live streams, but some pre-recorded stuff as well. Would appreciate if you hit that subscribe button, get notified up, Noti Gang, where you add. This stream is brought to you by PrizePicks. Everybody is getting brought to you by PrizePicks, man. They are taking over. If you guys haven't jumped on board yet, prizepicks.com, sign up and use code GUNDACKER. If you sign up using code GUNDACKER, they're going to match your initial deposit up to $100. So you sign up, you throw a 20 bomb there, they're going to make it 40, and then you can spray and pray a bunch of parlay tickets, and it's fun because they don't. It's not like you have to go in there playing just baseball. If you had a mind for CS:GO, soccer, the Olympics, all kinds of crazy different stuff you can put together. I mean, DFS already has such a diverse player base that watches so many different things. Like, I have people talk to me about sweating the Madden streams that DraftKings does. Like, this has a lot of that. They also have NFL futures up if you guys are just bored, you don't feel like slow drafting or best ball drafting, and you want to take some shots on some futures bets. They have that. Rushing yards, passing yards, receiving yards, all the basic stuff, and these lines are going to be as soft as ever this far out from the NFL season. So you want to take advantage of that. Go peruse through the lobby, see what you like. Maybe we'll look at some MLB bets later on in the stream. And as we progress throughout the stream, we are going to be referencing my proprietary spreadsheet brought to you by the English language, which is my baby. I coded this to help me expedite the daily research process. And on a slate like today, 15 games, absolutely gonna appreciate the expedition a little bit more. So if you guys want access to this, it is a premium perk of having a subscription at rundfs.com. That's the place where we don't just play DFS, we run DFS. If you're watching live, don't be a stranger. Jump in the live chat, say what's up. What up, Josh? Bomb Detector has been helping me out on my cash game. Quintuples, let's go, baby. Yeah, so I just had to tweak the not tweak, but like I said, before I went live, like, I noticed there was like 3 games affected that were showing not even inaccurate, they just weren't showing. So I just went back and went through the code, and the coding was all there, but for some reason it was just like ghosting. Like, Google Sheets wasn't like processing, but it looks like we're all back to normal here. It looks like what I saw this morning. Patrick Wisdom at the top of the bomb detector, man. I'm glad that it's helping out. It's definitely built to sniff out power. What up, dang lazy mofo? What up, Earth to Air, man? Happy Tuesday to you guys. Couple lineups came out as I was getting ready to go live. I didn't adjust, but we'll go game by game here and call it on the fly. And when we get to games that do have confirmed lineups, we'll chop it up there. So we got the right tabs open, right? We got Fangraphs, we got MLB, we got a DK tab. We're ready to go. Nationals at the Phillies, first game on the docket. We do have a confirmed Phillies lineup, so let me cross-reference that with the projected one that I had typed up. Gene Segura, JT Realmuto, Bryce Harper, Andrew McCutchen, Rhys Hoskins, Didi Gregorius, no Alec Bohm, Ronald Torreyes, former Yankee great in the 7th spot, and Odubel Herrera. Man, this is like the Yankee reject lineup, but I love it. These are all the Yankees I love, right? Joe Girardi as the skipper, Didi, Ronald Torreyes. It's a lot of fun. Even Andrew McCutchen wore a pinstripe. So we got Eric Fetty on the bump against Matt Moore, and these are two of the less than average pitching options on the slate, which is going to focus our eyes on these offenses. Citizens Bank Park can act like a bandbox in these dog days of summer. Just a low mid 80 degree temps for this one, but bad pitching on the bump here. Eric Fetty, a 404 xFIP to righties, 469 xFIP to lefties, almost a 300 average allowed to lefties. Against righties, actually holding his own here, 45% ground ball rate, and the hard contact rate's pretty low. However, the xFIP suggesting that he's not locked down by any stretch of the imagination, and the Phillies could get to him. Matt Moore on the other side here, we know what to expect when Matt Moore takes the bump. He's really bad, but especially bad against right-handed hitters. A 288 average allowed, 248 home run per 9 allowed so far this season. Extremely high fly ball rate. Medium hard contact rate, 42 innings of sample size there. I was chasing Trey Turner yesterday for some bombs in that matchup. He didn't quite get that, just a couple of singles, I think. But in this matchup, he's going to profile well again. So I do like that. Ryan Zimmerman also should probably look pretty decent on the bomb detector. He's got over 4 rating here, so I don't mind firing him up. Josh Harrison, sure. And then Juan Soto's playable on any slate. So the names that stick out to me the most, probably going to 2, 3, 4, maybe throw in 5 if I wanted to start forcing a stack here. We'll wait and see what the official lineup is. And then Alcides Escobar, if you really wanted to stretch up for a 5-man, you think the Nats could lap some of the other full stacks here in this spot and give you double-digit runs and then go for it. I definitely like to cherry pick the top 5 projected starters in this Nats lineup. If I want to pick on Eric Fetty, it does look like power to righties is a consistent thing that he's allowing, and on the road this season, a 1 1/4 home run per 9. The basics here: JT Realmuto, Bryce Harper, names that kind of stick out. Hoskins has got a couple bombs lately. Those are the names that poke at me the most, but Gene Segura also, maybe don't leave him off the list. I don't really chase him for homers, but a guy that can get on base a couple times in a game that has double-digit implied runs, he's a guy that might be implied for runs and a couple of on bases. But Realmuto, Bryce Harper, probably 2 standing out for me on the Philly side here versus Turner, Soto, Zimmerman, and I'm not touching these pitchers in my lineups tonight. What up, Tall? What up, Hono Blue? Are you on Osmo on certain days? Yes. Right now, I think just Saturday. So we try to. I try to do streams here, but I also, out of respect to everybody, I try to find my own time zone here. So I'm not opposite anybody here. So it's not, conflict of interest or anything like that. But I do appreciate that you like me on there. The whole idea for me on Osmo this season was to help them out because of the stress of the late NBA season, right? NBA's usually over in June, and it just wrapped up. So a lot of their usual guys that cover baseball couldn't do it because they were doing the NBA. So I jumped in and helped out where I could, and now I'm not needed as much, but they still keep me around once a week. So Saturday, I think, is the gun day for now. Josh, Bryce's BVP against Fetty is solid. Oh my God, we're talking about BVP in Game 1. Let's go. I mean, I'll look at it. I'll humor you, Josh. Eric Fetty. Bryce Harper has 4 bombs in 15 at bats. All right, well, that's cool. That's cool. That's gonna make me probably like him more than I should. I hardly reference BVP, but sometimes some numbers like that kind of stand out. There's a lot of people, a lot of guys that Bryce Harper has a lot of bombs off of. There was a Marlins pitcher not too long ago that it was just locked in, and like Julio Teheran's another guy. He had some child support payments going for a couple guys. What up, Justin Sports? What up, Quinn? Favorite prize picks tonight? What up, Theodore? I haven't really scoped out prize picks just yet, but I definitely will do so after a couple games here. Right? I don't want to guess that lines before actually doing a little bit of legwork. So maybe if you revisit that question another, 20, 30 minutes, I'll definitely be glad to do so. I do think if we just in this game specifically, if we look at Matt Moore's power splits to righties, maybe I'd knock on the door of like a Zimmerman or a Trey Turner. So if I go to Prize Picks and just check out MLB player points, if I'm seeking out bombs or guys with power, I don't really want to bet hits and walks or total bases. I guess you could justify total bases if you thought a homer was coming. So maybe Trey Turner does give you a soft price there. Trey Turner. But total bases and hits plus walk, yeah, there's no line on Trey. So I'd really just be seeking out fantasy points. Josh Harrison is on there as well. So fantasy score for Trey Turner, Control F, Trey is listed at 9. So if I thought Trey Turner could hit a bomb, he would clear 9 pretty quickly. And another kind of like a safe gate with Turner here is he does have stolen base potential. So even if he as little as drew a hit by pitch or a walk, I like him to kind of cover that. This is a really, really high game total, and their team, being the road team here in the potential 2 spot. I think I would be pretty privy on that 9 over. So there's a pick so far, but we'll keep it going. All right. Next game on the docket: Marlins at the Orioles. I got to keep an eye on each game, not just for confirmed lineups, but for pitching changes. But it looks like Sandy Alcantara taking on Spencer Watkins. We do have a confirmed Marlins lineup. So we got Miguel Rojas, Starling Marte. This is definitely one of the names you got to keep an eye on as we get closer to Friday. Marte is one of the biggest trade prospects on the market, especially from a bat standpoint. So keep an eye on him to be moved, and of course the hug watch would begin. And those of you that maybe played the NBA slates during the trade 0 hour might know it can get a little weird, and the same with baseball, it can get a little weird. However, the next man up isn't ever as lucrative as the starter here, right? If Starling Marte gets traded and he's not going to play, you're not running to play his backup, whoever that might be. Alcantara taking out Spencer Watkins. This game's in Camden Yards, 91 degrees. It is going to be one of the more hitter-friendly park and hitter-friendly environments on the slate. Marlins have an implied run total just about 5. The Orioles just 4.2. That is a lot of respect here for Alcantara, who's been really, really solid as a pitcher, but so far this season as a road arm, a 4.18 xFIP and under 20% K rate. So I think what I need to do here is maybe put some sample size on that. And I said it yesterday, I said it all the time, I don't necessarily overrate and overgrade home road splits for pitchers, but there are some extremes that I will look at. Obviously, German Marquez and Coors versus outside of Coors. If you're a pitcher in one of the top hitters parks and you do poorly at home, I do want to look at your road work. And how about pitchers that are their home park is one of the top pitchers parks, right? I can't really expect you to quantify that and do as well on the road. And that's kind of Alcantara's spot today. He's coming from one of the most pitcher-friendly parks in the league and now going to one of the more hitter-friendly parks. So on the road, 57 innings, the sample size, plenty of sample size there, 248 average, 4 bombs versus his 6 at home. And let's see if we can't find an xFIP number for the road. 417, that's what we just talked about. Yeah. This is a interesting spot because I think if I look past the fact that he's on the road, like I could see him beat up on this Orioles team. This Orioles team has an 84 WRC plus against righties. They're not that great against righties, and they do offer some strikeout potential here. So at 8,500 on DraftKings, I do feel like there's a world where I can knock on a door of 20 DKP out of my SP2, and there's not like a super standout ace on the slate for the fact that every team is playing and we don't have like a must-play pitcher is a little bit intriguing. Has not pitched against Baltimore yet this season, averaging 15 DKP on the road. I think I would get to some Alcantara. 80 to 90 pitches, a reasonable pitch count projection. I would get to him. He doesn't really have specific weaknesses that I want to pick on. An extreme ground ball pitcher, almost 60% to righties. So far, over 50% this season to lefties. So I can get behind him to stifle this Orioles team. And, for this game to be in the 90-degree temperatures and the Orioles to have such a low implied run total, the Marlins are getting some love here, and their bullpen's above average too. So I think 8,500, Alcantara is going to make the pool. If it fails, it fails. The 4.18 xFIP isn't horrendous. The number that kind of hurts, that makes me feel a little bit less than stellar is just the 20% K rate, but I do think he could steal a couple extra strikeouts in this lineup. So give me some Alcantara. I don't really see a weakness in his game to sniff out a bomb against him, so I'm not going to get there on these Orioles bats. Spencer Watkins, just 16 innings of sample size so far, has not been good against righties. An 11.4% K rate, a 300 average allowed, over a 1 home run per 9. He might be somebody that we try and elongate on the short sample size of his big league numbers and maybe see if he's trending in the same direction that his minor league stuff went. So if you bear with me just a second, we'll pull up his MLB.com player card and just kind of see if his minor leagues went really bad against righties, pretty solid against lefties. We got 19 innings, the sample size against lefties in the minors, a 136 average allowed, a 0.83 ground out to air out ratio, and how many bombs there? 3 bombs to lefties, 19 innings. And then against righties, 13.2 innings, 3 bombs allowed, 286 average. So pretty identical, and even the strikeouts, less than a strikeout per inning against both sides, but 10 in 13 innings. So maybe he won't sustain this much awfulness against righties, but it is kind of on par with his minor league stuff, and you might even make the case that he's striking out lefties more so far than he was in the minors, so that's probably due to regress, and I think we can maybe take advantage of that. And we know this Orioles bullpen not great. Do we get that excited to stack Marlins? No, but they are one of those teams that half of their games are in a really, really run suppressive park, and now you can get them out here in the open. You can add the DH spot to their normally no DH lineup, and maybe they surprise some people. If Marte stays in that lineup, I don't mind going his way to take advantage of the righty splits from Watkins. Adam Duvall does have some power. He's got a 275 ISO last 2 years against righty, so I don't mind looking his way, especially when we can neutralize the 29% K rate with Watkins 11%. A couple names that I can draw out, and then Jesus Aguilar, we've mentioned a few times. He's got like 17, 18 bombs this season, just 2 of them at home, the rest on the road. This is a park that is ripe for the picking here, and he's only 2,800 on Fanduel. So I kind of like this lane here of Marte, Aguilar, and Duvall to maybe pick on the Watkins splits, and then this bullpen is probably a league average bullpen, and then you get a above league average hitter friendly park. So I kind of like the Marlins side a little bit more than I should. I'm going to play a little bit of Alcantara. If you wanted to get to the Orioles just to stack the ballpark, I wouldn't push back on you. I think that's a reasonable approach, but I do think Alcantara's elevated ground ball rate would be enough for me to kind of taper my expectations on the Orioles being the nut stack on such a big slate, right? What up, Smeeze? Let's move on to the next game here. Pirates and the Brewers. So this is an interesting game that could have a lot of late swap implications. I'll say this: I don't think there's a world where this game kind of matters at the end of the day. I might eat those words, but to kind of catch you up, in the last hour, we got news that Christian Yelich and Jace Peterson have been tested positive for COVID. So obviously they're not in the lineup tonight, and they might be doing contact tracing and maybe see who else might have to chill. So we have to adjust the Brewers lineup. We got Colton Wong, we got Lorenzo Cain cracking the lineup. Avi Garcia batting third. Willie Adames batting cleanup. Omar Narvaez. Jace Peterson, another guy that has to go on the COVID IL, not in the lineup. He's out of the 6th spot. Luis Urias is going to be there. Keston Hiura cracking that 7th spot. And then JBJ in the 8 hole. Now, moving over to the Pirates side, Tyler Anderson is a big trade piece for them. Yesterday, the Pirates made a deal with the Yankees, a couple minor leaguers for a minor leaguer. I think I read this morning that the Mets were one of the teams knocking on the door, asking about Tyler Anderson, see if he can come out and play. And it seems like they want to move Tyler Anderson, and they want to be done with it today before his start. So there's a real likelihood that Tyler Anderson isn't our starting pitcher for the Pirates today. And then I'm not quite sure what to project past that. So maybe, I don't know, Chad, if you guys saw any projected starters to take his place. But yeah, let me pull up the tweet here and get you guys the information that I got. So I'm going to go look in the rundfs.com VIP Discord and show you the tweet that I saw in regards to Tyler Anderson. John Heyman, Mets are in on Tyler Anderson, but so are others. Pirates would prefer to trade the lefty before tonight's start if possible. So that's why this game could have a whole lot of late swap stuff. So if you guys don't mind, maybe I'd be a little bit lazy here. Maybe we come back later on it. But I think no matter what, PNC Park on a 15-game slate is probably not going to ring the bell for me unless we get a complete gas can on the bump here for the Pirates. As it stands now, Brett Anderson, pure contact guy, heavy ground ball pitcher, probably just going to be there to eat some innings. Doesn't have a massive power problem. Actually has a little bit of a bugaboo against lefties so far this season, but the hard contact rate being 27%, 62% ground ball rate, I don't really think like that's a genetic thing based on the advanced metrics, so maybe it's a coincidence. And I don't really see anyone, maybe Gregory Polanco, to eat up on that. Only Brian Hayes, Ryan Reynolds, and Gregory Polanco have ISOs worth even looking at in this spot against lefties, and it's a heavy ground ball guy. So I probably I don't have this game no matter what, but be even more cognitive of the fact that it could change depending on the starting pitcher for the Pirates, and we know that Yelich and Jace Peterson not in the mix for the Brewers. So I think we're gonna move past this game unless you guys had any feelings in your bad knee with the Stormer brewing. I just don't really see. I don't expect Tyler Anderson to be the guy that we focus on, and more than likely they throw a righty and it becomes a bullpen game, and then we're just kind of betting on talent. And if we're betting on talent like Willie Adames, maybe Omar Narvaez, Avi Garcia, somebody like that. But for the most part, in the grand scheme of a 15-game slate, I would hope that the likelihood, the median range of outcomes, that this game becomes pretty much irrelevant, right? Josh says, should we full fade this game since it starts at lock and all the unknowns surrounding it? I think it's like, if you put Christian Yelich and Jace Peterson in this game and you tell me for sure Tyler Anderson starting, like, I don't really care about this game anyway. So if you're giving him, replacement level players offensively and even, pitching wise, I still don't care about the game. So I think fading is probably what I was going to do regardless, but it does add some more moving pieces, some variables for this game to get even weirder. So let's move on from this game for now. If we get more information as we're on the air doing some research, we'll go back and adjust accordingly. Next game on the docket, the Yankees at the Rays. Yankees and the Rays coming off an off day. Rays back at the house. They come into this game as one of the worst teams in the league against lefties. They've recently added Nelson Cruz to try and beef that up. And they're in a series where I think the Yankees, they have Jordan Montgomery scheduled to pitch today. I think Nestor Cortez, another lefty, is scheduled to make a start in the series. So I think the Yankees are really trying to go at him and test him against lefties. We just got our Rays lineup confirmed, so bear with me just a moment. We'll get that punched in. We got Manuel Margot batting leadoff, Franco, Nelson Cruz, Yandy Diaz batting cleanup, G-Man Choi, former Yankee great, batting fifth, Randy Arozarena, playoff legend Brandon Lau, Mike Zunino, and Kevin Kiermaier. This is your confirmed Rays lineup. They come out really righty heavy, trying to attack Jordan Montgomery. Montgomery has been kind of a pleasant surprise for me this season. He's a guy that his advanced metrics never really blew me away, but it does feel like he's muscled out some really, really good starts this season, and it's been rock solid when the Yankees as a team needed him, and he's had some really big games, games that stick out, the White Sox game, the Red Sox game. Do we love Jordan Montgomery today? I think you can make the case that the park is going to be one of the more pitcher-friendly parks on the slate. You can make the case that the Rays are still a heavy strikeout team, especially against lefties. A lot of 25 to 30% K rate guys. So if he's going to come in at 6,700 on Fanduel, I do think there's some perceptual value behind that price point where you could settle on the 15 to 18 DKP range of outcomes. And he's been knocking on the door of 20 in two of his last three. At Seattle, at Boston. Do we have some Rays starts? 4 starts against the Rays. He's averaging almost 20 DKP a game. I think he's probably a little underpriced, right? Like, I don't have the warm and fuzzies on this spot. Really intense division game. Wins mean everything. Rays are trying to go neck and neck with the Red Sox for the division, and the Rays are and the Yankees are trying to climb, stay ahead or get ahead of the Blue Jays, and then hopefully scrap for that second wild card spot. So this is meaningful baseball for both teams. So if Montgomery came at me at like 8 to 9K right now, I don't think I'm like as invested. I probably still get to some, and that sentence alone is enough for me to say, all right, well then 6,700 is a no-brainer. I gotta have some. There's enough value here at 6,700 where 18 DKP is really, really a rock solid return. So I get to Jordan Montgomery. I do at 67. So I will play that. Shane McClanahan on the bump here for the Rays. So far, so good. High K rate to both sides of the plate. 65 innings of sample size and almost a 30% K rate. Even to both sides of the plate. So at 9,300, if we can get to 80, 90 pitches, 90, 91, 93, 91 his last 2 games, 23 DKP against the Orioles. Against the Yankees, he had 3.1 innings pitched with 6 strikeouts. This is definitely a strikeout spot. The Yankees lineup could have Aaron Judge back in it from this COVID stretch, and then this Yankees lineup looks about as normal as it can possibly look with Judge and potentially Giovanni Urshela in the mix. That does make this offense a little bit stronger, but it's still a high strikeout lineup. It's still a high strikeout pitcher, and it's still a pitcher park, and there's a lot of near 30% K rates against lefties. Judgy, Gary, Stanton, and Rougned Odor. So I do think this matchup comes with a little bit of risk, but there's plenty of upside because of these strikeout matchups. Leaning at almost 30% per. If we look at the K factory and give Shane McClanahan 90 pitches versus his projected lineup, fudge. I don't know what happened that kind of messed up this code. So I guess I got to come back to that and revisit that later. But I think it's very, very reasonable to give him almost over a strikeout per inning against this lineup. So I actually would probably, against my bias, have to get to some McClanahan in this spot. And I think the magic number in terms of exposure from a match standpoint, I guess that would depend on projected ownership by the field, and I haven't really absorbed that yet. So maybe 30%, but maybe 30 might be a little too much equity on a 30 team slate. But I think 30% is the number I kind of want to start at for his strikeout propensity versus this lineup. And I guess also kind of lean on what the actual Yankee lineup is. The Yankees have an implied run total of just 3.4. That might be the lowest they've had all year. And again, Judge and Giovanni Urshela definitely an upgrade for that offense, but there's a couple of unknowns that they can do with the rest of their lineup. So I haven't seen that yet. So we'll see. Chat, what are you guys doing with this one before we move on to the next one? Yo, what up, EMAC? So if do Sumter stand up, go Gumby. Jordan Lockdown, you like that? All right. Anderson, I didn't do the Anderson bit. Ryan Anderson just got a cold chill. Kyle Anderson, bro. We had to hand it over to him. Let's move on to the next game. We've got Cal Quantrill taking on Adam Wainwright. Waino. We do have confirmed lineups for both of these teams here, so bear with me just a minute. Dylan Carlson, Goldie, Arenado, Tyler O'Neill, Yadi Molina, Tommy Edman. In the 6th spot, Harrison Bader, batting 7. Matt Carpenter, batting 8th, and then Paul DeYoung. So Cardinals picking up that designated hitter spot, which is fun. And then the future Guardians are going to lead off Cesar Hernandez, Ahmed Rosario, J-Ram, Fran Mill, Bobby Bradley, Harold Ramirez, Bradley Zimmer, Roberto Perez, and Daniel Johnson. So as projected on the bump here, we're looking at Waino versus Quantrill. Quantrill, a 4.92, almost a 5 xFIP to righties, and a 4.83 xFIP to lefties. The strikeout stuff not quite where we need on a 30-team slate to kind of introduce him into our player pool, and just $200 cheaper than a guy like, or a couple $100 cheaper than a guy like Jordan Montgomery. So I don't really see merit into targeting Quantrill for my DFS lineups tonight. Ground ball guy, I guess against lefties, he's letting the ball in the air a little bit more, a 42% fly ball rate, a 27% line drive rate. There's really not a lefty that we want to target to take advantage of that. I guess Carlson at the top of the order, Tommy Edman, and Carpenter's probably a little past his prime. So I don't really get to these two spots, and it's okay. Like, it's okay to not need every bit of exposure to everything on a 15-game slate. And I don't really just love Cardinals in this spot, so I might cherry pick one off some of the talented guys, right? Arenados, where they fall. Wainwright, I think, is the more peculiar decision here. Indians are going to come out pretty staggered here, lefty righty all the way through. Against lefties, Waino, a 4.15 xFIP, 21% K rate. And against righties, almost a 1-4 K rate. On the road, however, those numbers have kind of gone down. A 21.6% K rate, a near 270 average, and a 163 home run per 9, and a 30.2% line drive rate. So maybe Busch Stadium a little bit more favorable than some other parks. Looking at the pitch report on Wainwright, in this spot, we'll control F Wainwright, and then we'll probably have to come back when I'm off the air and kind of figure out what happened with some of this coding. So Wainwright so far this season, leaning on fastball, cutter, curveball, changeup, pretty spread out here. Any crazy grades against the curveball? Yeah, Jose Ramirez, Franmil Reyes, and Harold Ramirez. And then against the cutter, a lot of negative grades, and then J-Ram, another positive grade against the fastball. So, I mean, Indians definitely don't stir a lot of high expectations. Both teams have run totals knocking on the door at 5, not quite there. I guess J-Ram would be somebody I get to if I wanted to cherry pick some one-offs. And the Cardinals do have some pro trends I'm looking at, but I just can't really get behind them with a high level of confidence, knowing that this pitcher is going to be an extreme ground ball guy. So I think I'm on the cherry pick side of things in this one. I don't really feel like I'm going to dedicate any percentage of equity into full stacking these two teams. And like in my mind, I feel like I begrudgingly want to get to a little bit of Wainwright exposure, but right now it wouldn't be a priority until I circled back and got into it, because like the 21% K rate, like, that's not huge. The thing with Wainwright, I think that's most impressive, that I think we should definitely grade and rate with I don't say significant, but with a noticeable weight, is his pitch count is one of the guys that can get to 100 plus at Colorado, 110, 111 at Atlanta. So, if he's holding his own, there's not a 0% range of outcomes where he can go 7 strong, even if it's just 5Ks. If he's holding him at bay, maybe scoop up the win. So because of that, I feel like an 8-8 might be a spot where I check off the activate button in the player pool, but I don't have an obscure number to start with right now in terms of min or maxing him. RIP Rhino, wherever you are. Remember when we were trying to do scientific research on whether or not Ryan Anderson was colorblind? Those were the days. Lorenzo, you love Cleveland? Rosario, Ramirez, Reyes, and Bradley. Rosario, Ramirez, Reyes, and Bradley. That's a fun lane, 2 through 5. The ISOs are well over 240 for 3, 4, 5, so I don't think you're crazy. Wainwright, a 163 home run per 9 on the road. Do we isolate that and see if it's leaning more so towards one side or the other? That curveball into lefties maybe getting caught? I don't know. Let's pull up his Fangraphs card. I was going to go fly right by it, but Lorenzo's on it. I want to know. Colorblind, good times. And they were like, well, the Rockets' home court is red. It was a whole thing. It was funny. DFS is funny, right? Away versus lefties. Actually, can we split that to per 9s? Yes. Away versus lefties, a 165 home run per 9. Away versus righty, 161. So it is kind of split. So you might be onto something, Lorenza. His average does spike to 342. The BABIP is 407, so extremely unlucky on the road against lefties. We probably expect it to go backwards, right? About 300 would be the median, a 438 xFIP. So he's been a little bit unlucky in regards of BABIP, but home runs are not accounted for in BABIP, right? Those aren't balls in play. So he does let some balls leave the park. Progressive field could act a little bit more hitter friendly than Busch Stadium. So you might be onto something, Lorenzo. I think that's a sneaky little call. Nice little lane here. Rosario, J-Ram, Reyes, Bradley. I'm gonna keep an eye on that. I think that's cool on second thought. Braves at the Mets. Next game on the docket. Mets seem to be one of the teams with the phones going right now. We talked about them potentially in on Tyler Anderson. Maybe they're in on other people. I've heard their name linked to crazy names. Chris Bryant, Javi Baez. By the way, Javi Baez might be a free hit by pitch tonight if you just want to bet something like that. Charlie Morton up against Jared Eichhoff. So I had Drew Smith this morning, so we'll switch it to Eichhoff, righty versus righty. Morton, also a name that a lot of people speculated as potential trade bait, but some reports are coming out that the Braves have been indicating that they're still buying. They're still going to make a run. I get it. The NL East is still kind of open, and if they think that, then this series is pretty important, right? You come out here, maybe bring out the brooms against the Mets. You do gain some ground, and even without Ronald Acuna, you might stir some feathers. I mean, Jock Peterson, great example of indicator that they're not willing to lay down and die. So Morton versus Eichhoff is our matchup. Morton, so far this season, a 32% K rate to lefties. Mets, some of their better bats are going to come out lefty. Brandon Nimmo, Jeff McNeil, Dom Smith, Michael Conforto, and Jonathan Villar. Several 20+% K rates in this lineup, pretty well spread out. And you get the pitcher spot. So I actually don't hate Morton here. Solid park too. Citi Field leans more towards the pitcher. And like I said, meaningful baseball. And then you split, you reverse those splits and look at the righty side, isolate the righty side. 1 and 4 K rate to righties, a 0.69 home run per 9. Ground ball rate's good. I think Morton definitely checks a lot of boxes for me pre-flop and what I'm looking for on the slate. Someone that can go 6-7 innings, get me hopefully a strikeout per inning, and be in a positive pitcher's park. And I think Morton's there for me. 3 games against the Mets this season, 27.5 DKP. Grain of salt. Mets have been one of the most injured teams in the league, but it's a not bad spot for Morton for just isolating his splits, his strikeout potential, and upside here. So I do like Morton as a play. 9,800. He'll be in the player pool. Right now, probably going to be one of my tier 2s. I don't know if I even have a tier 1 yet. So because of that, I guess Subjectively speaking, he could be a tier 1 for me. Eichhoff will not be a tier 1 for me. 14.6% K rate to righty so far. We only got 16.1 innings of sample size as a whole, but Eichhoff was never like a great pitcher, so it's not like we're expecting him to regress to the mean or progress, get better. I just think he's kind of a washed guy, and he's one of the reasons why the Mets are on the phone trying to get Tyler Anderson. A 444 average so far to lefties. A couple years ago, 2019, he allowed a 300 average, heavy home run per 9. So I think this is a good spot to target Braves here, and I would imagine that Jock Peterson is going to be one of the higher names on the bomb detector. He's got a 4.3 rating in the bomb detector. Ozzie Albies is up there. Freddie Freeman's up there. Really, all of the Braves have high bomb ratings. Again, it's going to be stifled and maybe impacted by the short sample size on Eichhoff, just 16 innings. But the high barrel rate's there. The low K rate, he's begging for contact. He's just not good. And then this Mets bullpen is something that is beatable. So if the Braves are going to come out inspired, hungry to win baseball games, I think the Braves will be one of my stacks here. And even if you couldn't get to the Braves stack with confidence for DFS, what do you guys feel about this 4.4 implied run total? Because I feel like that's a little low considering the matchups themselves. So maybe they're expecting a little bit of an okie doke. I don't know. Maybe Eichhoff is in a Tyler Anderson trade. I don't know. But give me some Braves. I like the Braves stack. I like Charlie Morton. They're 148 favorites if we're looking at the money line. I feel like I like the Braves more than I should looking at this run total, but who am I? What do I know? Maybe I bet the over on the game total right now if you guys are sniffing out some fun bets, right? Thought it was Trop. I thought what was Trop? The park for the Rays? Or Tropiano the pitcher? Anyway, move on to the next game. Red Sox hosting the Blue Jays. Looks like there's some potential rain concern here, so we're going to turn this green into a yellow. And I don't play weatherman, so you guys keep your ear to the ground and do your due diligence. Red Sox did offer up a confirmed lineup. Kike Hernandez, Rafael Devers, JD Martinez batting third. No Xander Bogaerts again, second day in a row, I believe. Christian Vasquez batting fifth. Sixth is going to be Verdugo. Verdugo might be warming up. I think he got one last night. Bobby Dalbec and Michael Chavis. On the bump here, we got Garrett Richards and Robbie Ray. So, chat, did you guys maybe do any research on the potential weather for this game? While we speculate that, I'm going to go pull up Garrett Richards' pitcher card because I believe he's a guy trying to find his way when it comes to his pitch mix. And I just kind of want to put maybe in perspective what he's maybe fallen on, or just kind of give you an aesthetic representation of how indecisive he has been in terms of what pitches to throw. So I guess we would go to game logs and then pitch type. So game log, pitch type. So looking at his last couple games, fastball usage, last game against Toronto, 33%. The game before that, Philly, 60%, 50%, 40%. The slider usage last game, 35%. The game before, 21, then 34, then 22. The curveball, last game might have been his lowest curveball usage on the season, 7%. And then 14, 10%, 11%. And then he used a changeup, which is a pitch that looks like he just started using for 4 games. And there's 2 games of 5%-ish usage, and then 2 games of 1 in 4 pitches were a changeup. What I'm saying is he's all over the place in terms of what we might expect his pitch mix to be. It does look like, if we go off of last game, he's trying to surrender 20% of his fastball allocation into changeups to diversify his pitch mix a little bit, but he's going to be predictably unpredictable at the end of the day. And so far, he really hasn't given us anything to hang our hat on and really take chances on. And I think a weather game, Fenway, the Blue Jays. There's no upside in this price point of 7,900. There's a lot of downside. So naturally, I'm more inclined to stick with the offenses here. But I did want to kind of point out that Richards has been just driving drunk when it comes to his pitch mix. And then let me get caught up on chat, see if you guys have anything in lieu of weather. Nobody got nothing on weather? All right, cool. Blue Jays have an implied run total of 5.9. I'm going to go look at a weather report here because I think it is very important to understand the potential weather impact for Robbie Ray, because when you put all these pitchers on the table, Robbie Ray definitely stands out as somebody that could be the top scorer on the slate. So Mr. Kevin Roth of Roto Grinders says that he puts this game at orange-yellow. The only game with any real rain concerns right now, models have a fast but potent storm line arriving mid-game. Whether or not they could resume play would be based on if anything that pops behind the line, blah, blah, blah. So it looks like, in his words, not mine, best guess here is a mid to late inning delay in an eventual finish of the game. So if mid to you means 5th or 6th inning, maybe there's a world where 10.1 K is still viable for a near 30% K rate guy like Robbie Ray. His last start, not great. And like I said, the Red Sox, Blue Jays, the Rays, all teams that are in their own right wanting wins, right? Blue Jays and the Yankees trying to get that wild card spot, and the Red Sox and Rays trying to get that number 1 seed in the division. So it's going to be a tough game all the way around because of the weather, because of the matchup, because of the park. Like, I'm not trying to make Robbie Ray a priority, especially after that last outing. But I understand why somebody would, right? 30% K rate, and he probably doesn't bring a ton of high-end ownership anyway. But if there's going to be even more risk because of the weather, and maybe that heightens the humidity a little bit more, I think I'm out. This matchup is a little bit softer, but with Xander Bogaerts not in the lineup. But I think I'm out. I think I'm going to lean towards the bats here, the stacks here, and then keep my ear on the ground for the weather report. And I think the Blue Jays are certainly a team I would be sniffing for high run total. 5.9, 6 run total right now, 5.2 on the Red Sox. So give me some Blue Jays bats. I might sit and meditate on Robbie Ray as we get closer to lock, right? If you're telling me I can get 10% of Robbie Ray and be okay in terms of where I stand versus the field, sure. But I still am going to have Red Sox stack allocation, so it's just kind of playing both sides. And then are we just getting 6 innings, 7 innings here? This is the wild card game. Luckily, on a 15-game slate, we only have one of them, and this is the one. But this one definitely could be one of the games that laps the field in runs produced and homers produced, right? Storms could arrive mid-game, also possible another pattern, right? Yeah, I appreciate that, Josh. Let's move on to the next game here. D-backs at the Rangers. We did get some more confirmed lineups on games we've already touched on. So in a bit, we'll circle back here and get those wrapped in. D-backs official lineup. They've got Cole Calhoun as their leadoff guy. Pavin Smith batting second. Eduardo Escobar, Christian Walker in the cleanup spot. Asdrubal Cabrera. I think he used to play for the Rangers. David Peralta. Josh Reddick batting 7th, Nick Ahmed batting 8th, and Dalton Varsho in the 9th spot. The National League West Diamondbacks picking up the designated hitter spot in Globe Life Field. Taylor Widener on the bump. On the Ranger side, Dane Dunning, and then their confirmed lineup, Tanner Falefa batting leadoff, Nate Lowe, Adolis Garcia, Joey Gallo, Andy Ibanez in the 5 spot, David Dahl, Jonah Heim. I don't have Curtis Terry in the projected lineup, and then Eli White. So I think we've been making notes on everybody on the slate that might be traded. Joey Gallo is one of those guys that could get moved. So keep an eye on him. I do like his matchup here. He has one of the higher bomb ratings on the slate. Taylor Widener, a 172 home run per 9 to lefties. almost a 50% hard contact rate coupled with a almost 50% fly ball rate. Really good spot for Joey Gallo. Maybe the bugaboo here, Gallo's 34% K rate versus Widener's 25% K rate. So there is a world where he strikes out. But it is something that is noticeable on the bomb detectors. Joey Gallo stands out. But again, one of those names that any day now is subject to a late scratch and hopefully ends up in some pinstripes. I think I'm more on the offenses here. Neither pitcher really has any reason to get behind them. I guess the game totals, make me feel a little bit lazy about writing these two pitchers off. The D-backs at 4, the Rangers at 4.6. It looks like they might have the roof open right now. It looks like Fantasy Labs is listing the roof open. Again, chat, if somebody's already done some research and know more about this spot, let me know. But you would think with the roof open, the Texas heat, we're at 90 plus degrees, with below average pitching, like the game total probably should be more than 8.5. So if it's going to continue to trend that way, I would probably take bets on the over just because bad hitters in my mind kind of beat bad pitching. Globe Life Field roof. I'm just going to Google that. I know we have a roof thing for Chase Field, but I don't know about Globe Life. Has anybody seen a tweet or a status on Globe Life? Is Globe Life Field roof open? Because I think this pitcher's park becomes a massive hitter's park if we turn the temp up to 90 degrees, right? The thermostat to 90 degrees. I'm not seeing anything specifically. I don't want to stall too long trying to get that answer. But, Chad, if somebody kind of heard about that or knows more about the status on the roof, drop it in chat. I'll trust you. Dane Dunning, a 23.6% K rate to lefties, almost a 23.6% K rate to righties, almost a 1-4 to lefties. I do think there's a world where Dunning at 6,400 is a solid SP2 ROI, meaning 15, 18 fantasy points. Maybe he scoops up the win. The Rangers are favorites in this one. I don't think I get to him on Fanduel per se, but on DraftKings I could see having maybe up to 15% as an obscure number. If I wanted to pick on Dunning, it looks like lefties that hit for average might get to him. Righties with a little bit of power, 137 homer per 9 to righties. It's only Christian Walker that has any type of power. So I think I'm fine with playing a little bit Dunning. I don't have any expectations to play Widener, a 5.4 expected ERA. Just not melting me, and I think his splits and his power allowed is really, really troublesome, especially if the roof is open. And I could, because of that, get behind some Ranger stacks. I mean, this D-backs bullpen's really, really bad. And if they do get the Joey Gallo Rangers one last time, I'm in. Like, I can get behind some Garcia, some Gallo, and then just kind of hope that Widener's just that bad. Falefa's a guy that I can get behind for some base running. And in that leadoff spot, I don't mind that. 2,300 on Fanduel. Guarantee you people don't play Falefa on Fanduel. So he might be a really, really, really sneaky spot over there. And we'll move on to the next game here. The Reds at the Cubs. This was a game yesterday. I don't know if you guys caught the highlights, but essentially finished with a Javi Baez walk-off, I believe, against Amir Garrett. If you're not familiar with Amir Garrett, he's one of the more animated pitchers in the league. I think a couple years ago he went viral for essentially challenging the entire Pittsburgh Pirates dugout. Well, last night, Baez got him to walk off, and then as Baez was going down the first base line, he mimicked his bat doing a sweep motion, sweeping the trash out of here. So Amir Garrett being who he is, the Reds being who they are, there might be some bad blood. So keep that in mind as we go forward into this game. There's a lot of online speculation on whether or not there's a receipt coming for Javi Baez in the form of a hit by pitch, and if that happens, you might get some benches clearing brawls, you might get some ejections, but we're just speculating at this point. Reds do have a confirmed lineup: Jonathan India, Jesse Winker, Tyler Stevenson, known power hitter, Joseph Votto, who's just on a tear right now. Eugenio Suarez, Tyler Naquin batting 6th. Kyle Farmer in the 7th spot. Shogo Akiyama in the 9th spot. Vladdy Gutierrez, the pitcher. We don't have a confirmed Cubs lineup, but Adbert Alzolay is their pitcher. This looks like one of those potential Wrigley win games, and it also looks like maybe Vegas is kind of hedging on the Reds, bringing Reds pitching, because the Cubs have a 6.1 implied run total. That is one of the highest on the entire slate. So because of that, I think a lot of eyes are going to peruse their way. And that's interesting to me, because we've kind of talked about the theme of the week is, when will we start getting these trades happening, the late scratches, stuff like that. The Cubs are sellers. They have a couple names attached to some potential trades. Javi Baez being, I think Javi Baez is one of the least likely to be traded, but he still potentially could, with Rizzo and Chris Bryant being the two names that people are really interested in. Craig Kimbrell, guys like that. Kimbrell not really going to matter a ton for us in DFS, but Bryant and Rizzo definitely could shake things up and make this already inconsistent Cubs lineup maybe get a little bit worse perceptually. We do not have a confirmed lineup from them yet, but if it is the way it is now, they have an implied run total of 6+, so we'd have to at least be interested in the Cubs. Gutierrez coming at us with a 286 average allowed to righties, a 186 home run per 9 to right-handed hitters, a 178 to lefties. On the road, the home run per 9 dips, so this could be a product or a benefit, however you look at it, from Great American Ballpark to not. Wrigley is closer to league average than the Great American Ballpark in terms of homers allowed, but still 2 points above league average, and he's just not metrically a great pitcher. 1.45 whip, low K rate. So I have every reason to be interested in the Cubs. There's plenty of moving variables in terms of potential trades, potential revenge, potential benches clearing brawls, but should be fun baseball, and I'm in on the Cubs. Adbert Alzolay is becoming, I don't want to compare him to Alex Cobb, but he's a guy I've been playing a lot, and I always get him at really, really, really low ownership. It seems like one or two things go bad for him, and I end up, not getting that ceiling game. But I will probably get to some Alzolay again today. 8,300 for him. I would like to know that 20+ DKP is kind of a world I can settle at. And he hasn't gotten that since June and late May. But he's not missing it by much this last couple games. So I don't want to be too results-oriented in terms of that far-right column and be a little bit more focused on the metrics. The metrics give me a 25% overall K rate against righties, 30.1%, lefties 20%. So this is a really staggered lineup, righty lefty, and that does worry me a little bit because he does allow a lot of power to the lefties. A 369 home run per 9 to lefties. Maybe Joey Votto has a right to stay hot. Jesse Winker can get into one, but there's still a half and half K rate, right? Like a sweet half and half lemonade, sweet tea. Well, the sweet tea is nice because there is some strikeout potential in this lineup. He is going to catch that pitcher spot a few times. So I think I don't have 0% Alzolay because I do think 20+ can happen at 8,300, and I do think a potential win is there for him. He is a pretty sizable favorite, -176. Not expecting him to go super deep, but if I can steal a quality start and a win and maybe a strikeout per inning and hopefully just two or three earnings, I'm fine. So I'll get to some. Definitely not a core or tier 2. Probably going to list him as a tier 3 pitcher for me right now in terms of ownership, but I will have him. Let's move on to the next game. Tigers at the Twins. That was a fun game last night. Tyler Alexander, the projected starter for the Tigers. Kenta Maeda, who was the winning run last night for the Twins, the starter for them. The Twins projected lineup: Jorge Polanco, Brent Rooker, Josh Donaldson, the poster boy today, Mitch Garver in the cleanup spot, Max Kepler going from leadoff to batting 5th, Miguel Sano, La Tortuga Astudillo batting 7th, Celestino batting 8th, and then Andrelton Simmons batting 9th. Twins were the subject of a lot of adoration anoche. Today they have a 5.3 implied run total. Tyler Alexander has allowed a 300 plus average to righties for the last 3 seasons and a lot of power. I've kind of beaten the Tigers pitching is bad drum in the last week or two and kind of tipping my hand here. I love this part of the year when the Tigers bullpen just is bad, and we saw it last night. And I think the Twins are going to be a team I do go after. Last 2 outings for Alexander, 3 innings. He got to 59 pitches. Maybe they continue to AJ Hinch tries to stretch him even more so here. Maybe he gets to 70 pitches. But even if it's just 3 innings and then it's a quicker route to that bullpen, it probably gives me at least 1 round of at-bats, maybe 1.5 round of at-bats for my top 4, and that's really all I care about in this spot. So I'm going to get to those top 4 Twins pretty liberally. Jorge Polanco, Brent Rooker, Josh Donaldson, Mitch Garver, the guys that I like the most. I think Miguel Sano shouldn't be ignored as well if we're stretching. I don't have a lot of high hopes and expectations for the bottom 3. Kepler can make a lineup here and there, but I do have an inclination to play some Twins today just because Tigers pitching bad and they can crumble. So give me some Twins here. Kenta Maeda is an interesting pull here. I did mention yesterday I was going to get to Michael Pineda, and Pineda was pretty solid. Tigers are a team that, even though they're in the last 20 games since the All-Star break, blah, 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 like they've been winning more than they should, they're still not a menacing team that I'm running from. And there's a lot of potential strikeouts in this lineup. Pretty much everyone in this projected lineup 20% plus, and a lot of 25% plus. So if Kenta Maeda can be a little bit more like 2020 Kenta Maeda versus 2021, I do think a solid game could be in store for him at 8,200. We don't need 10K return at 8,200. If I can get to 20 plus, I'm a happy dude. And I think the matchup's fine. So far this season at home, a 3.32 xFIP, a 26% overall K rate, 263 average allowed, a little bit higher than you would like it, but he's keeping the ball on the ground and in the park, a 0.35 homer per night at home. So really not a whole lot of pushback for me on Kenta Maeda unless we get just a staggeringly stunning Tigers lineup that pushes me away. If I did want to pick on Kenta, a little bit of power allowed to both sides of the plate, maybe a Kill Badu gets into one, Jonathan Scope, somebody like that. But right now I'm leaning more towards the Twins bats and more towards Kenta Maeda. No Alexander for me, and very little Tigers exposure, if anything, right? 3-6. Yo, you know what? When I said 369, I was thinking that, but I was like, I have a corny quote line, bro. Love Maeda on Fanduel at 8,300, but it don't sound like Maeda's struggling when he pitches with the grunts he makes. Tyler Anderson scratch. We expected that. See, we're good. We're good, chat. Let's move on to the next game. We'll circle back and look at adjustments and confirm lineups. But let's get through the research side of things. White Sox and the Royals. We do have confirmed lineups for both teams here. Tim Anderson, Yoan Moncada, Abreu, Eloy Jimenez back for the White Sox. Saw him last night. Gavin Sheets, Andrew Vaughn, Brian Goodwin, Lori Garcia, retyped him, Zach Collins, and then Brian Goodwin. Coming up with creative spellings for him. There's a couple guys I always jack up their name, but it's not like I jack up the spelling. I always put like a space. And one guy I do all the time is Chris Taylor of the Dodgers. I always put like, it always comes out Christ Ayler, and it just like makes me laugh. Whit Merrifield, Carlos Santana, Salvador Perez, Jorge Soler. Bro, is Soler the hottest hitter in baseball in the last 2 days? Potentially. Andrew Benintendi, Ryan O'Hearn, Hunter Dozier, Michael A. Taylor, and Nicky Lopez. We got Brad Keller on the bump. We got Dylan Cease and desist. We got 92-degree temperatures out in Kaufman, so a usual pitcher's park might be a little bit more hitter-friendly today. And we got we got a contact pitcher in Brad Keller, under 15% K rate to righties, 22% to lefties, a 5.24 xFIP to righties, over 4 to lefties, and then of course Dylan Cease. You never quite know what you're going to get with him. Has the potential to be a 30% K rate guy, but the 3.67 xFIP to lefties and the 4.37 xFIP to righties often rears its ugly head. So I am willing to get to some Cease. I do think the 8K range at pitching today on DraftKings so far feels pretty strong. Right? Like, there's risk, moderate risk with most of these guys, but you think about the Maedas, the Dylan Ceases. We go back into this. Let me go to the player pool here. The Maedas, Dylan Ceases. Who else? Alzolay, Alcantara, even Wainwright to an extent. Couple hundred more, Shane McClanahan. Like, the mid tier is strong enough that I can feel okay with diversifying, right? Like, there's a world where they all score about the same, so maybe at the end of the day it doesn't really matter. But the I don't feel like I'm overpaying for a lot of these guys, and I still feel like there's a little bit of implied value if I do hit potential ceiling. So Dylan Cease might be a guy that I just get to. Whit Merrifield, Carlos Santana, and Nicky Lopez, the only guys in this lineup with sub 20% K rates, and 3 of 4 guys in this lineup with sub 26% K rate. So the strikeout potential absolutely there. For Cease to maybe put together a solid game. A little bit worried about his line drive fly ball rate to lefties, but I think this park could swallow a lot of those fly balls. And then against righties, kind of the same problem. Line drive rate, fly ball rate, a little bit higher than I would like it. So it comes, like, you know, it's not without risk. 1 through 3 is really the main concerns for me. But hey, if you're a believer in streaks, then I think that's a debate for a different time. But it's unquantifiable, yeah. But baseball players know when they're locked in. When you watch as a fan, like when I watch Giancarlo Stanton, there's a good Stanton, there's a bad Stanton. I think Jorge Soler is one of those guys that's just kind of locked in over the weekend. If you think he can continue it, he's averaging 2 homers per game in his last 2 games. And he's just, he's hitting the ball really well. So if you want to get to some Royal stacks, they've thought well enough over his weekend performances to put him in that cleanup spot. So if I wanted to hedge some Cease exposure, maybe 1 through 4 here and there, maybe 1 through 5, I don't mind Benintendi or Ryan O'Hearn for a little bit of pop. But I do have a hankering for getting to some Cease exposure, just because the strikeout numbers say that, hey, there's a range of outcomes here where these 27% K rates versus your near 30% K rate, ends up in, 30% K rate on the day. So like 6-7 innings, 8 strikeouts, like that's not an unrealistic outcome. Maybe it's a little bit closer to the high side, but it's still possible. He had 10 strikeouts against the Houston Astros 2 games back, has 2 games against the Royals, averaging just 15.7 DKP, but 9 Ks in 10 innings, so less than a strikeout per inning. It is what it is. I think at 8,600, I think the opportunity, the cost for the opportunity is still fine for me to take some chances on. And offensively, White Sox, do we get to them? I think it's going to be a matter of time before this lineup breaks out one of those huge offensive performances. This is very reminiscent of the lineup that we saw them put out consistently last year, and they were just a fun team to stack, especially against lefties. They didn't really quite do it for me against Minor, but I do think there's just a lot of talent involved in this lineup. And Brad Keller, a ground ball guy, I'll concede that, but he'll still allow a lot of traffic here, and then if you can get through Keller quicker and get into that bullpen, I think there's a lot of potential in a White Sox stack in a 90+ degree game. And the Royals bullpen definitely not something that I'm running from. But just look at these averages for the White Sox. A lot of 270 pluses against righties in the last 2 years, and a lot of 200+ ISOs in that top 5. So there's in the DNA of the matchup, plenty of upside and potential here. So I will have some White Sox. Definitely not going to be like a core stack or a primary stack, but I do think there's a world where they come out firing and they can maybe put up a football score here. Hopefully with some bombs to boot. But they did, reintroduce Eloy Jimenez back into the mix. You got Tim Anderson starting to come around, a little bit of pop and some stolen base potential. And then, of course, there's just a perfect mix here of OBP guys, some power guys, some ribby potential. So give me some of that. Give me some C's. Give me some White Sox. I don't mind cherry picking some Royals here. I don't know if I get to dedicated Royal stacks, but I don't mind cherry picking them because of Cease's potential of being a Jekyll and Hyde pitcher today, right? White Sox ruined a few of my lines last night. It'd be like that. Maeda might be my highest exposed pitcher in tournaments. Quinn, I don't think that's crazy. It makes a lot of sense. All right, let's move on to the next game. Rockies at the Angels. We had a nice little Ohtani chalk debate yesterday. And, like I said, value super subjective. So Ohtani's, I don't think he was the highest scoring pitcher last night, but sometimes ownership and just getting a shot at 20 DKP on a slate like that is going to be enough to be an optimal score and win a tournament, right? You don't have to actually be the nuts. And I think Ohtani's downside was not that low, so he did well. Luis Garcia did not do as well. He's the guy. He was kind of my jerk bag of the night. Anyway, Austin Gomber taking on Jose Suarez. Battle of Southpaws. We don't have confirmed lineups for either team. Looks like a mid 70-degree game. I don't have any inclination to get to some Rockies here, but Jose Suarez, I guess. It's 41 innings of sample size. Suarez has a 22.3% K rate to righties, 22% K rate to lefties. Does have looks like a reverse split problem going on right now, but it's really not sustained by a DNA of a guy that has a power problem to left. You know what I'm saying? Like a 27% hard contact rate, a 48.6% ground ball rate, low line drive rate, low fly ball rate. Usually that's not indicative of a 2.45 home run per nine. So I'm going to project regression on that number and maybe go get more in line with that 2019 1.11. The average allowed is pretty high, but this is the Rockies. So I'm not really rolling out of bed today to get behind the Rockies as a team stack. I think they're a pretty below average team on the road. They're just a pretty below average team in general, 89 WRC plus as of yesterday against lefties. So no thank you. Austin Gomber, he's a little bit more peculiar. On the road this year, a 3.52 xFIP, 25.2% K rate, 235 average allowed, does allow give up a little bit of power, but a high ground ball rate. So 7,100, I don't think there's like a 0% some range of outcomes that he's not a solid play. This Angels team does project decently against lefties, but I don't know. I don't know if I'm racing to play Gomber. If I play Gomber, I'm kind of taking the implied loss, so I don't really give myself a shot at the win bonus. But I don't think you have to over project for that, at least on DraftKings. But I think at 7,100, I'd be looking for 16 to 20 DKP as a median downside. Is that possible here? Yeah, maybe. So maybe I cap him at like 6 to 8%. And look at some of these scores here. 15, 28, 20, 27. Doesn't have a game against the Angels, but there is some upside behind Austin Gomber. And maybe more so looking at the outcomes now than I thought, 5 minutes ago. So I think 7,100, I think you give me some Gomber. Sure, I'd like to see this projected or this confirmed Angels lineup. Jose Iglesias, definitely a guy that's not going to offer up a strikeout much, but man, Fletcher, another no strikeout guy. So if you can pitch the contact of Fletcher, Iglesias, keep him in the park. Even Ohtani, 30% K rate. Upton, 32% against lefties. Jared Walsh, almost 30%. Max Stassi, 28%. Jack Mayfield's got a couple bombs in the last week, but a 1-4 K rate. There's a world where Gomber does it for me. So right now, I'm penciling in Austin Gomber into the player pool. We're going to have to meditate on exactly how much exposure I get of him. But I think he's a better spot than perceived. And he's on the road, and on the road he's been really solid, right? 3.5 xFIP, I'll take that. Doesn't walk people, a little bit of power here and here. It's not cores, so the average person might see some of his overall stats not look as great, but there's a lot of good stuff here. 20.2% called strike rate, that's incredible. Maybe unsustainable, but it's incredible. So give me some Gomber. Chad, did you guys have any crazy hot takes about this one? Love Gomber tonight is my SV2. All right, Lorenza. Eloy, double dong night. I kind of like double song, right? He does so well that he just says, you know what? I'm going to sing 2 songs for the people. And then it's just like one in English, one in Spanish. Dodgers at the Giants. Julio Urias taking on Logan Webb. Urias and Webb are, especially Webb, I think just recently I've kind of stumbled across how solid Webb has been. And this is a revenge series for the Dodgers where the Giants just kind of backdoor swept them. Webb has actually held his own against the Dodgers, averaging 19.9 DKP. That last game, he went 5 innings, 2 earnings, 10 ground balls to just 1 fly ball, and 5 Ks. I think he might be a better real life pitcher than fantasy pitcher. So on a 15-game slate, am I going to sign up for Logan Webb against the Dodgers? I don't know if the ceiling's what we want it to be, but I do think he's better. He's a better real pitcher than maybe he gets credit for. I think at this price point, we're looking at Jordan Montgomery. Maybe you might consider him a pivot. Montgomery probably ends up a little bit higher owned just because of his price, and people are scared of the Dodgers. But it's a solid park, so I don't mind getting a little bit of Logan Webb, just a little bit. And then Julio Urias is 9K on DraftKings. He's a guy that at 9K I would really like him to be a top 2, top 3 scorer because of the price point. And I think I've only really talked about 1 or 2 9K plus guys that I get behind, Shane McClanahan being one of them. Last outing against the Giants, 7 innings strong, 21 DKP, right? Not like a melt your face off kind of score, but sure, averaging 18 on the season, so almost about 2x value. And then when it comes to pitch counts, 96, 89, 100 in his last 3 games. And 2 of those last 3 games saw him go 7 innings. 3 of those last 4 games, 6 or more. And then the 1 game he didn't, at Coors, 5.2. So we might have a shot at the quality start here for those of you that want to look his way on Fanduel, and then maybe scoops up the win. Right now, the Dodgers a slight favorite, -115, 64 degrees the projected temp. I don't really have a hankering to target either pitcher with some of these bats. I do think Urias' home run per 9 to lefties is pretty intriguing. That 50.6% fly ball rate is, I guess, the catalyst behind that. It doesn't necessarily parlay that with a high hard contact rate, but a 199 home run per 9, maybe you keep an eye on that. Maybe Mike Yastrzemski surprises some people. Maybe on a late slate you take a shot at that. But for the most part, I'm kind of leaning on the side of the pitchers here and not stacking the bats. So give me a little bit of exposure to both pitchers. I'm not expecting ceiling games, but I'm not expecting a shootout. And if I cherry pick bats here, it looks like Mookie Betts is still not in the projected lineup. He's been out since the Reagan administration, it seems like, and I don't think they have put him on the IL yet. And then on the Giants side, maybe Buster Posey against the lefty, one time for the one time. Wilmer Flores, they do have some fun Cinderella lefty mashers, but Urias has been pretty rock solid. So just a 103 home run per 9 so far this season against righties, 25% K rate. So give me some arms, not really running to stack bats. Moving on to the next game, Athletics at the Padres. James Caprillion taking on Chris Paddock. 9.4K for Caprillion. He's got a 31% K rate to righties, 21.5% to lefties. The lefty splits are definitely something to be scared of. 5.27 on the xFIP, 172 home run per 9, 14% walk rate, fly ball, and hard contact rate. Pretty doggone high. So Trent Grisham, Jake Cronenworth, Eric Hosmer, how you doing? I don't know if Adam Frazier's going to crack the lineup, but I guess maybe he could. Chris Paddock is 8,100 on DraftKings, 25% K rate so far this season to righties, a 321 average allowed, a 183 home run per 9, but a 351 xFIP, suggesting he's fine. Athletics are not a team I run from or to, but their K rates aren't really as high as maybe you would think they are, and they do lose the designated hitter spot in this matchup. So, Elvis Andrus has a 15% K rate to righties last 2 years, and then a 16% on Tony Kemp. But everybody else is over 20% plus the pitcher spot. And AL pitchers are probably more implied to strike out than anyone, right? So maybe Chris Paddock at 8,100 can kind of pay that off in a game where the Padres are minus 152 favorites. So maybe I get to a little Paddock, right? He's not my favorite out of the AK guys because he has been consistently inconsistent. But if I'm looking for just guys that can knock on the door 20 plus, he can do it. It doesn't have a game against Oakland, but at home this season, he's averaging 9 fantasy points. So that's why he's my least favorite. But I think the matchup's better than usual. If I wanted to pick on him, he does give up power to righties. Mark Canha is interesting. Maybe Ramon Laureano. Sean Murphy, if he cracks the lineup, has a 246 ISO last 2 years against righties. But I'm probably not getting too invested in the Athletics because backing up Paddock is a pretty strong bullpen, and they might cut the game in half. And then I don't think I get the Caprillion, but I guess if this lineup for the Padres comes out just 3 lefties, he does have a high K rate to righty, so maybe there's not a 0% sum, but at 9,400, I probably don't. Like, I probably just think I just lean on the AK guys, and I don't risk it with Caprillion, and maybe they're more likely to quick hook the pitcher because of that no DH spot, right? If they need his bat in the middle of the game, 4th, 5th inning, that might be a scenario that we don't usually see them have to get to. Anyway, we got one game left on the docket. Take a pause for the cause. Remind you guys, we're sponsored by PrizePicks. If you're one of the 5 people on the planet Earth that hasn't signed up for PrizePicks yet, because everybody's sponsored by PrizePicks, go check them out. PrizePicks.com. It's probably the one of the more refreshing DFS alternatives out there. A lot of other sites they piggyback off of DK Fanduel, and they give you the different pricing algorithms, different scoring. This is really different. It's kind of like sports betting parlays meet DFS, right? The fantasy projections, and the fact that you can play so many things in one. So if you do sign up for PrizePicks and you want a little extra incentive, you use code GUNDACKER. They give you up to $100 deposit bonus. So if you sign up, you say, I'll throw a 20 bomb at a gun, they'll turn that into $40 instantly, no slow drip, and you guys can fire away some cards. I saw a thread today on Twitter about the irrelevancy of cash games in DFS because they're hard, and unless you play a high volume, it's really not worth it. 10% annual ROI is kind of like the high end. Maybe PrizePicks 2-player parlays can start replacing cash games. It's you versus the house, not you versus me. It's a lot of fun. So I like to, for baseball, look at the pitcher K props and the player fantasy point projections, but they have a little bit of everything. Like I said, it's the sports book meets DFS, and it's pretty fun. 2, 3, 4 leg parlays. They have flex options where you don't have to get every single one of them right. And then they have the power options when you want to go all in. So a lot of fun. Check it out. PrizePicks.com. Use code GUNDACKER when you sign up. And if you want access to the spreadsheet, you want access to my personal player pool, it is a perk of having a subscription at rundfs.com. So if you go to rundfs.com, there's several options for you waiting on you. And then also, if you haven't been in the Discord yet, you are an NFL regular, something like that, you're waiting for NFL to come back, we do have a couple of season-long leagues firing up. I think we got 2 spots left in the $150, and then a couple more pop-ups behind that. So if you are interested in getting back in this season-long fantasy, we didn't do it last year because of the COVID. We'll be back at it this year. So hit me up on Twitter, twitter.com/GunDacker. Main event, Lance McCullers taking on Chris Flexen. Mariners had a very unlikely comeback on the Astros last night. Astronomically would be something that I would describe the odds of them winning that game after like the first or second inning, but they did it. And as a known Astro hater, I would love to wake up and laugh at the Astros pain, but I have felt that pain almost exactly far too many times this year, so I just gotta Kanye West it and move on. Lance McCullers on the bump for the Astros. He has a 31.4% K rate on the season against righties and a 23% K rate to lefties. We've talked about his pitch repertoire getting a little bit different than we've known it to be historically. Historically, we've kind of known McCullers to be a only curveball kind of guy, fastball, curveball. Well, he's kind of diversified his pitch mix a lot. He's added that slider into the mix, so he's fastball, slider, curveball, changeup, a little bit of cutter here and there, but mainly now a 4-pitch pitcher. So it has changed his overall numbers just a little bit, right? He's gone from a 29% K rate to lefty guy to a 23%, maybe because he doesn't have that maybe wipeout curveball inside to a lefty or something like that. But it is something that worth mentioning. McCullers is in the pool, 10.4K. We've got such a vast selection at the 8K and even at the 9K, a couple guys that I don't feel like McCullers is going to be a priority play. Definitely a momentum gainer for the Mariners last night. And again, the Mariners, kind of like the Tigers, but more so just the Mariners, are a hotter team than a lot of people believe on the season, and they are fighting for a wild card spot. Like, this team is fighting for the playoffs, and last night definitely one of those momentum gainers that, you know, maybe makes these young bloods think that they can do it. Chris Flexen, not somebody I believe in. 16.2% K rate this season against righties, 14.8% against lefties. Does keep the ball on the ground more than in the air. So that's a good thing for him, but I do think he's beatable. I do think this bullpen, I guess it's above average, especially in homers allowed, but the Astros are just a pretty solid team, and for all of the hype on them losing last night, their offense didn't cost them the game. They did just fine. So I don't mind looking at the Astros as a stack here. 4.5 implied run total, pretty doggone low, all things considered. But I don't mind putting them in the stack mix for me. A lot of near 300 batting average, especially some guys like Yordan Alvarez, when you can neutralize that 27% K rate with that 14.8% K rate of Chris Flexen. You know, maybe he sneaks into a bomb here and there, even though Flexen has been pretty good at suppressing power. So I do like some Astros bats. I will get to some Lance McCullers. Maybe not as much as like I would get to if the first pitcher you told me was, hey, Lance McCullers just facing the Mariners, I'm like, oh, okay, that's probably my highest owned guy. I think as we've kind of absorbed the rest of the slate, I don't think that's going to be the case for me, but I do think I get to Lance McCullers at 10-4 because I don't necessarily think salary is going to be an option where I don't have to stress out over in value, right? I do think if McCullers is one of the guys that can get 25, then he's one of the guys that I can fit in, because on a 15-game slate, there's going to be plenty of 2K specials to go yabo. Chat, we've done it. I'm going to try and get off the air in 10 minutes. So if you guys got any lasting questions, comments, concerns, toss them in chat. If you guys seen any news, I know we saw Tyler Anderson got scratched. We might adjust for that. If you are getting out of here, I would do thank you for your time. If you want to hit that subscribe button, I would appreciate it. Hit that thumbs up. I know, I think Osmo's going live at 3:45, so that's why I want to get out of here in 10 minutes. That way you guys can double down and catch some of their takes. But to catch up on some projected lineups where you guys fired away some questions or anything like that, Nationals lineup did come out. Alcides Escobar, Trey Turner, Soto, Josh Bell is batting fourth, Josh Harrison. So no, looks like no Ryan Zimmerman. I don't know if he's a trade guy. I know that they have a couple names, but he was a guy that I did like against Matt Moore. So removing him from that lineup is something that is at least noteworthy. Moving on to the Orioles lineup, we got Cedric Mullins, Austin Hayes, Trey Mancini, Ryan Mountcastle, DJ Stewart, Ramon Urias, Pedro Severino, batting seventh, Michael Franco batting eighth, Domingo Leyva batting ninth. Let me take a peek at chat real quick. Webb is a part of my 5-man pitcher pool, that watered down Dodgers lineup. Yeah, what up, Eric? I missed pitchers. Can you recap who you like? Yeah, give me just a second. What up, Eric? Yo, Eric, did I see you sweating some big last night on Twitter? Is that you, or is that a different Eric Johnson? Congrats if that was you. Brewers lineup. So we don't have remember, Tyler Anderson did get scratched as expected. We don't have confirmed lineups for either team. Keep an eye on that. Yankees lineup is not confirmed yet. That's probably going to deal on some reinstatements of Aaron Judge and Giovanni Urshela if they're ready to go, and then they got to send people down, transactions, blah 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 blah. Moving on to next, blah blah blah. Any other? We got the Braves confirmed lineup: Jock Peterson, Albies, Freeman, Riley, Swanson, Stephen Vogt, Abraham Almonte, Guillermo Heredia. That's confirmed, so it doesn't really change anything there. That's literally what we expected. Blue Jays lineup did come out. George Springer, Vladdy Jr., Semien, Bo Bichette, Teoscar Hernandez, Randall Grichuk is batting 7th. Lord Escorial Jr., so they kind of flopped based on the projected lineup. Biggio, Alejandro Kirk, batting 9th instead of Reese McGuire. That's not going to shake the foundation of our analysis for that game. Keeping it moving. Did the Cubs lineup come out? It did not. Twins lineup came out. We already had that. I think we're good, Chad. I think we're good on that. So to answer your question, Eric, which pitchers am I digging? I do like the AK range pretty well. I'll get to some McCullers. If I feel strong enough about the weather, maybe I get up to like 8% Robbie Ray. I'm not keen on him insanely. And if I say I'm at 8% and I go look at the ownership projections and he's like 18%, I might just back all the way out and feel like I don't have to do it. But just because he does have 30 fantasy point potential, I feel like I'm inclined to not have 0. But there's a lot of moving pieces in that game. You know, good offenses, good hitters park, and potential weather that I don't feel like I need to make it a priority just yet. But I might get to a little bit of Ray, a little bit of McCullers. Charlie Morton's probably my favorite 9K and above option. He's got a really good history against the Mets. He's just really, really strong. Matchup profiles pretty well. Then Shane McClanahan, he has basically a 30% K rate to both sides of the plate, facing a Yankees lineup that has a lot of 30% K rate potential. So I think he is amongst the highest ceiling out of the 9+ K guys, but I think Charlie Morton has a really good floor to ceiling ratio to kind of make me feel a little bit happier on some of those mid-tier contests, right? I can get to some Urias, I can get to some Wainwright. I mean, I'm talking some, not much. Dylan Cease, I might cap him at like 12%. Alcantara, same thing. I think I'll just be spraying and praying the AKs because I can make cases for all these guys. Maeda, Alzolay, Alcantara, Cease, even Paddock to an extent. Like all these guys will be in the player pool tonight. It's going to be one of my most diverse pitching player pools of the season. And it's featuring most of these AK guys. But if you force me to grab maybe 2 guys for cash right now, it would probably be like a Charlie Morton. I might do like a Morton, Jordan Montgomery, offset the price point a little bit. Just because I think the floor ceiling reward on Morton's pretty solid for 9.8. And then I think I don't necessarily think like Jordan Montgomery's matchup is as good as the perception. Like the Rays have been pretty bad all year against lefties, but they've added some pieces. But I just think 20+ DKP is a reasonable range of outcomes. Maybe 50% of the time for Monty here. He's averaging almost 20 in 4 games against the Rays this season. It's a pitcher's park. 67 is just a little too cheap, so I think there's a lot of implied value at that price point. So he might be somebody that I would think about in a cash format. But he will probably be, because of the price, one of my higher owned pitchers. And I'd probably will have to stifle that. But I'm curious to see where the field is at, too. Because I think he's by far the best points per dollar versus ceiling option, Montgomery that is. And then we've kind of flirted with Gomber a little bit, and that's it. And then it's just like 8K guys. So that's where I'm at in terms of pitching. What else do we got? With no Zimmerman, Moore should be over 4.5K prop. Man, I don't know if I'd put actual money on Matt Moore over anything that is good, but definitely was hoping Zimmerman would be in that lineup. He was one of the bats I dig. More over 4Ks. Theodore, okay, I think Theodore did ask for some PrizePicks play, so we'll peruse a couple, all right? Stepped away for a minute. Did I miss the bomb detector? Didn't, but I'll look at it for you. Sounds like 150 lineup type of night. Sure, yeah, 150. Just know that these 15-game slates, especially when there's so much diverse ownership, is probably the hardest to bank ever. Like, it's tough. Just like, don't get over invested in people and just play the math, right? Bomb detector peak, Ozzy Albies, Patrick Wisdom, Joey Gallo, Freddie Freeman, a couple names at the top. I personally like Mitch Garver and Josh Donaldson. Donaldson's been on a really nice tear. He's looking pretty solid at the plate lately. But this is a snapshot. If you guys want to pause it there, some of the guys at the top. Not all lineups are confirmed. And then if we're looking at some PrizePicks plays here, remember, sign up using code GUNDACKER. Get up to $100 instant deposit bonus. Looking at some strikeout props. You guys are on Matt Moore at 4. I probably just leave bad pitchers like Matt Moore alone. Alcantara is at 4.5. So I think he might be one of the games that got affected by this coding problem. I'll be working on between now and voice chat. But Alcantara has a 26% carry to righties, and this lineup is really righty heavy. So Alcantara over 4.5 is pretty interesting to me. So if you guys want to jot that one down, I think I'll take responsibility over that call. Alcantara over 4.5 strikeouts at Baltimore. Yeah, give me that. Oof. Yeah, I'll tell you what, he's not hitting that as much as I was hoping. But 4 at Atlanta, Washington, Toronto. I might be on that one because Baltimore's been pretty not great. There's a bunch of 20-plus percenters. What else we got here? Man, Charlie Morton's at 7. That's juiced. McClanahan's at 6.5. We'll probably get over that. I hate to bet on that, but he'll probably get over that. Slate's 5.5. Maeda's at 6. Urias is at 5.5. These are some tough ones. Any fun outs? Pitching outs is another one they've added. They don't have Alcantara here. Tyler Anderson's probably not getting 17 pitching outs. 16 for J-Mont. That's intriguing. The Yankees bullpen's still a little bit hurt, but they're off of a rest day. So 16 outs for Jordan Montgomery. So there's what, 5.1 innings? Did we get 6 innings out of Montgomery? They just took off. I think 6 innings from Montgomery is not unrealistic. 5.266. So he's done that in 3 games straight. 4 of his last 5. 5.15. He's been right at 5.1, so you might push that, but I might be behind some J-Mont. What's his average on the season against the Rays? 23.1 divided by 4. Maybe it's not. Well, I'll be changing your bomb detector because of the change at pitcher. Yes. Okay, that's actually an incredible point. Wait, are the Mets? Are the Mets changing pitcher? I thought. Did the Mets change pitcher? I knew that Tyler Anderson got scratched, but I don't unless Eichhoff was in the trade. Tyler Anderson goes for Hernandez, Adrian Gutierrez. Eichhoff wasn't part of the trade, so I don't think so. Yeah, I don't have Eichhoff part of that. It would be Eichhoff was part of that. All right, I'll check Twitter real quick. I'm gonna get off the air here. Oh, I'm looking at the trade. I didn't see Eichhoff's name. Jared Eichhoff. Play Gumby. Yeah, I like the Gumby call. I don't think Eichhoff's in that, but I'll follow up on Twitter if he is. But I think Eichhoff is the starter. Yeah, I think Eichhoff's the starter. So, no, that wouldn't affect the Braves bomb detector projections because it's based on Eichhoff. Anyway, chat, man, I appreciate you guys. We're making these afternoon streams really, really fun. Should be back at it tomorrow, 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central. Hit that thumbs up on your way out, and go check out the Awesemo Baseball stream. I hope you guys crush it tonight. You can never have too much information on 15-game slates, man. I love you guys. Good luck. God bless. And go win some money.